And we are live. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience, and I've continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020. But enough of me. I'm here for you. On today's episode of the FD Show, we are going to continue with our Week 4 game recaps, breaking down every single Week 4 matchup, all through the lens of fantasy football. Up next, the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. So if you are excited for this game recap, be sure to hit that like button down below like an open receiver downfield. Also smash that subscribe button like a power running back up the middle so you never miss a video from me. Last but not least, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Primarily Twitter because I love the quick interactions I can have with all of you over there. But let's get started, shall we? The Jaguars taking on the Bengals. The Bengals looking for their first win, and they got it. They defeated the Jaguars by a final score of 33-25. And of course, let's go over the box score real quick. Gardner Minshew had a rough game to start through an early interception, but quickly rebounded after that, especially because they were trailing the majority of the game. Minshew, 40 attempts, 27 completions for 351 yards and 2 touchdowns along with that pick. James Robinson, the motor continued here. 17 carries, 4 receptions on 4 targets for 107 total yards. DJ Chark, welcome back. Battled a chest injury that made him miss last week. Came back strong. 9 targets, 8 receptions for 95 yards, and not 1 but 2 touchdowns. And Laviska Shenault, the rookie out of Colorado, continues to impress, hauling in 5 of his 6 targets for 86 yards. Gardner Minshew now, through 4 weeks, has 3 games of 20-plus fantasy points. This was everything I was expecting from Gardner Minshew in 2020. Moving over to the winning team and Joe Burrow, who got his first win as a starting quarterback in the NFL. The rookie out of LSU was lights out yet again. 25 completions on 36 pass attempts for 300 yards on the nose, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Joe Burrow is the first rookie quarterback with 3 straight games of 300 passing yards. Joe Mixon, welcome. If you were we're going to talk about Joe Mixon in a bit, but basically if you've stuck with them, here was your reward. 25 carries, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 181 total yards, and not 1, not 2, but trace touchdowns. Tyler Boyd further cementing himself as the number 1 wide receiver on this team. 7 receptions, 8 targets for 90 yards. And T. Higgins. Higgins' season is here, hauling in 4 of 7 targets for 77 yards. The Bengals beat the Jaguars by a final score of 33-25. And as always, let's talk about it, right? I want to start with Jacksonville, then we'll move over to the Bengals real quick. Again, though, this is everything I was expecting with Gardner Minshew, right? If the Jags wanted to be competitive, they would have had to do it one of 2 ways. One, actually milk the clock and just keep the game close and short with James Robinson. But primarily number 2, because of the way that this defense is they're going to have to put up points in order to be competitive. And if that is the case, Minshew is going to have to air it out. Like I said, 40 pass attempts on the day, 350 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Minshew, as I've talked about before, this is what he does. Minshew is a gunslinger. He's going to air it out. Yes, he'll probably make a mistake here or there with that interception, but he's also going to move the ball and find a way to get into the end zone, right? And my big concern with Minshew was how are people going to react to him in the fantasy sense after that letdown Thursday night game against the Dolphins, where all the eyes were on him. We were all talking him up as such a great matchup. You guys know I played him, and I'm sure many of you guys did as well. And what happened is if you stuck with him, he rewarded you yet again, right? Like I said, this is through 4 weeks, 3 games of 20-plus points, and that's what you want from a guy who you're drafting in that 14, 15, 16-round territory, or a guy who you're picking up off the waiver wire as a quarterback who you're willing to start week in and week out, as a streamer option. Whatever the case is, Gardner Minshew has the tools on this Jaguars team because of circumstances or coaching or a combination of both to where he can be fantasy relevant for you week in or week out. Yes, he's going to have a dud game like that because he plays for the fucking Jaguars. But Gardner Minshew is here, and you have to accept that. And I'm really excited about this because that just means yet again I hit on the late round quarterback. I dropped Ryan Tannehill because, simply put, I didn't want to have to deal with the COVID crisis that may occur for the next few weeks with the Titans, and I'm rolling with Minshew now. I'm officially rolling with Gardner Minshew as my quarterback in my league. I'm really excited about it because he has the weapons. We're going to talk about them in just a moment, but I want to talk about, and speaking, I guess we'll talk about them right now, starting with James Robinson. I again continue to be wrong about James Robinson, and every single game he makes me look dumber and dumber. It's fine, I'll take it. Right? I feel like it's kind of a wash, right? I was right on Minshew, wrong on Robinson, so it all evens out. Robinson again though is just the guy. I mean, it ain't even close. He was the only. So let's see, the Jaguars ran the ball 18 times. Laviska Shenault got 1 carry. James Robinson had 17. And this is one of the things we were talking about with Robinson, is he literally is just the bell cow running back for this team. 16 attempts, 11, then 7. But he's also getting great work out of the backfield as well, pretty much averaging 4 targets a game. And that is incredible. For a guy who you picked up off the waiver wire before the season started, or a guy who you drafted if you guys were drafting late and you guys drafted and you know that 14th round range. I don't know what else to say about him. He's just so consistent. He does his job, and he's going to find his way to get into the end zone. He didn't do it this game, but when you still get 100 plus total yards from a running back who nobody was expecting to be in the league, or I guess be a fantasy relevant contributor through the first 4 weeks, like, what more can you ask for? I can't speak on it because I don't own James Robinson, but I imagine if you own James Robinson right now, and because he's now he's theoretically your number 2 or number 3 running back, but in terms of tiers, right? To have your number 5 or 6 guy come through for you in such a way like this, like, that must give you so much flexibility that should make you so happy as a James Robinson fantasy owner. DJ Chark, let's talk about these weapons now. On the receiving end, DJ Chark. I was telling you guys, be patient with Chark, right? It didn't make sense for him, the ways that he was producing, right? As I talked about earlier in the season, he caught, it was 3 targets, 3 receptions for a touchdown, and then it was 4 targets, 4 receptions for 90 yards. And all of a sudden, after that missed week versus Miami, he comes back, and he is the focal point of this offense. 9 targets, 8 receptions, 95 yards, and 2 scores. This is the guy who I drafted in the 7th round. This is the guy who I was expecting to take that leap into becoming, one of the more exciting young wide receivers in the NFL. So I'm really excited about Chark moving forward. I feel like that the Jags realized after their letdown performance against the Dolphins in Week 3 just how much DJ Chark meant to that offense, and just how much he meant for them to move the ball and score and, do the things that they need to open up the field. And with that being said, if you bought low on Chark, good for you. I tried. I was unsuccessful. But if you stuck with it, that's the main thing, right? Again, if you stuck with DJ Chark and you didn't tilt, and maybe you played him this week, maybe you didn't. I didn't play him. I should say I tried to acquire him in one league. I already have him in another. I didn't play him, but I just have more confidence in playing him now moving forward. Laviska Shenault, just another great game from the rookie, right? He's not getting the snap percentages that I would like, admittedly, right? 64, 57, 69, and 54. But the targets are there whenever he is on the field, right? He is being targeted. He's getting manufactured touches, whether it is little bubble screens or whether it's just natural carries, like using him out of the backfield. So I don't know what Shenault's value is going to be for rest of season, admittedly. Maybe just a spot flex play if you need to. I'm really excited for what this team uses him for in the coming years. I'm really excited for Shenault in dynasty purposes, all things considered now after the things that we've seen through the first 4 weeks. Keelan Cole. This is now 2nd straight down week for Keelan Cole after starting off the first 2 weeks with the touchdown, and that really was the big thing. Is you just look at his numbers, and he was a guy who was going to give you 50 yards, 4 catches. But if you didn't get that touchdown, his game was pretty much wasted and useless. So for me, Keelan Cole's probably droppable at this point. I'd much rather have DJ Chark, just because I know that Chark is going to be the center point of this passing offense going forward. So I'd rather have Chark than Cole. If you got to keep Cole, I understand desperate times, desperate measures. You do your thing with him there. I think that's pretty much covers it for the Jags. But now let's talk about the Bengals real quick here. Joe Burrow. If Joe Burrow's on your waiver wire and you are struggling at quarterback, maybe you're just in an awkward situation. Maybe you have a Ryan Tannehill. Maybe you have a Ben Roethlisberger whose games are just being pushed back. Or maybe bye weeks are approaching too, right? Whatever your circumstance is where you feel like you need a quarterback, go get Joe Burrow, and you should have him right now. I considered picking him up this week. I didn't. I wanted to continue to roll with Minshew. I have some regrets, admittedly, just because Joe Burrow continues to impress me. Finally gets on the board with his first win, which is great for him, right? He hasn't. It's not even been his fault that they've lost that they lost their first 2 games and tied versus the Eagles. But just to see his performances, I've talked about this before with Burrow. He just looks really impressive, and just the way that this team is structured around him, it's structured around him to succeed on the offense. Even though their offensive line is not great, the weapons around him are, and that what more can you ask for a rookie quarterback entering the NFL in a crazy offseason where he didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare and develop that chemistry with his teammates? Again, the attempts here are the big story for me. He is literally throwing the ball 35 times a game. And he has the receiving options here that can make plays for him, right? He's a special quarterback, and he's going to make plays for his receivers, but at the same time, his receivers are also going to make plays for him. And that is so cool. Again, 3 straight games with 300 passing yards. His last 3 games in terms of touchdowns, 3, 2, 1. Unfortunately, had an interception today, but that is what it is, right? Burrow's not going to throw too many of those. Also has the potential to be mobile and, rack up some rushing yards, albeit not a whole lot, though. But, Burrow just does it again. He does it again. He's super talented. And this team, I think, is really starting to kind of find its stride, and it's going to continue to build that confidence and build that chemistry moving forward. And you want to talk about confidence and chemistry. Holy fuck, Joe Mixon. Let's talk about my baby boy, Joe Mixon. For the past 3 weeks now, I've come on this program and I've said to you, I said you need to keep Joe Mixon, and the reason why you need to keep Joe Mixon is because he is going to heat up. This is just what he does, right? You have to stay the course with Joe Mixon. He was like this last year, and then he won people championships later on in the same season. Joe Mixon in this game, 25 carries, 151 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 targets, 6 receptions for 30 yards and another score through the air. I got a tweet today, admittedly. It's from my man Hugo, and he told me to calm down. It's just Jacksonville. But that's kind of my point, right? Mixon, the thing with Mixon has always been that the volume is there. And it doesn't matter who he's playing per se, it's just the fact that he was getting the work, right? And eventually that work would have to amount to something, right? He is too talented of a running back to be putting up 2.9 yards per carry against, or on 16 attempts, and it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. Why? Because the Eagles had a bad run defense, the Browns' run defense is fine. It actually is pretty good. I love their front line, but he's just too talented of a player to be dudding like that early on in the season. And if you go through the numbers, he actually is a bit of a slow starter, admittedly. But the reason why I felt like you had to buy low on Mixon was because of this game, right? This matchup was so great for him to succeed and to have that breakout. It's one of the reasons why I targeted him in a trade this week, because I wanted to get Joe Mixon, because I felt like after 3 straight down weeks, you would be able to get him at a price that made sense, but then also helps you long term. Specifically, right? And granted, admittedly, his next handful of games are a bit tough, right? Baltimore, Indianapolis, Cleveland, Tennessee, and then the bye week. So, admittedly, that stretch might get tricky, okay? But here's what I want to talk about is after the bye week, okay? Once their bye week in week 9, they then play Pittsburgh in week 10. All right, not a great matchup again. Week 11, Washington. Week 12, the Giants. Week 13, Miami. Week 14, Dallas. Holy shit. Joe Mixon you're going to have to weather the storm. You are going to have to weather the storm yet again. But he is going to propel you to the playoffs during that final stretch of games when you need him. And that has me so excited, right? Again, this offensive line is not great, and that is the main issue here. But here's the other thing to consider as well, is that they are still using him in the passing game, right? 4 targets, 3 targets, 6 targets. So he is getting work that way as well. Obviously turned a catch into a touchdown today. I'm all in. I'm all in on Joe Mixon. The talent's there. The offense is there. The offensive line is not there. The schedule's there, though. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun moving forward. If you missed out on Joe Mixon, don't worry. There's a chance that he's going to go back to what he was during the first 2 weeks because of that schedule. But if you're able to get him at a reasonable price, not this week, probably in 2 weeks, please go get him. Because he is going to be incredible for your fantasy team down the stretch when you need him the most. All right, shifting over to these Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers. Tyler Boyd's the number 1 wide receiver on this team. You can't tell me otherwise. Very, very simply put, he is getting the most consistent targets. He's doing the most with them, and he is just being extremely productive overall. He's also in Joe Burrow's favorite position, that being the slot position on the field. Boyd, past 3 weeks, 8 targets, 13, 8, 7, 10, 7, 72, 125, and 90. Found the end zone 2 weeks ago, hasn't found it since. That's fine, no, not worried about it. Tyler Boyd's floor is pretty simple to me. It is 7 receptions for 75 yards and the potential for a touchdown, and you are going to take that as your number 2 wide receiver on a week in and week out basis without any questions asked. Again, this team is going to have to put up points. If they want to be competitive as well, because their defense is not great. It's fine. It's not great by any means, though. And Boyd's going to have to be a big factor in that offense. And I've talked about many times about how much Joe Burrow loves throwing to the slot. But, guys, someone is here, and they are here to stay. And that person is T. Higgins. T. motherfucking Higgins is here. Higgins season is here. Yeah! Oh my god, I'm so excited, right? I've talked about Higgins all offseason long, just saying how talented he is, but also how I didn't expect him to be able to make his mark this year. I was fully expecting him to be a next year guy. But here we are. It really only took 3 weeks because of what happened last week, but I really wanted to see it for a 4th week just to make sure that we weren't being tricked or anything like that. And again, John Ross was a healthy scratch here. AJ Green had 5 targets, was hobbled by a wrist injury, so he busted for you, and was supposed to be in a great matchup versus the Jags. But T. Higgins, 7 targets, 4 receptions for 77 yards. He just has the ability to, 1, get open because he's just a freak athlete, right? He's just a naturally talented wide receiver. 2, he has chemistry with Joe Burrow. I've talked about this before. They were working out this offseason together. During the pre-draft process, they were working out together. So I knew there was chemistry there. But then also he's just able to break and extend plays. He's just so good at finding holes in the defense, getting through, and then just racking up extra yardage after the catch as well. Just that big play ability for a guy like T. Higgins, who I think is 6'3". Yeah, he's 6'4", 210. He is literally an AJ Green clone. I'm so excited. So this morning, actually, before the games kicked off, I picked up Justin Jefferson with my waiver priority when waivers ran initially, because I valued Jefferson long term. I value Jefferson long term this season higher than Higgins, admittedly, just because not as many mouths to feed in Minnesota. But then I also needed another wide receiver, I felt like, just because, first off, at this point, you can never have too many with the COVID cases going around and how unpredictable everything else is. But then also just naturally by wide receivers, I felt like I needed a little bit more strength at. And so this morning, again, I dropped Tannehill and I actually picked up T. Higgins. And sure enough, Higgins comes through yet again. Higgins season's here. John Ross is out. Higgins is in. And Higgins actually didn't even see the majority of the snaps here. Let's see. Higgins played 57%. I did know that. Tyler Boyd played 77, and that looks like that third wide receiver, or even second wide receiver, were a bit all over the place. Just the snap counts were a bit bizarre in this game, all things considered. But I'm fine. T. Higgins, when that's the thing, right? Whenever Higgins is on the field, he's going to be targeted, right? Joe Burrow fucking loves this dude. So I'm really excited for Higgins long term, and especially in dynasty formats. Like I've said before, I was able to pick him up this offseason. So T. Higgins, it's here. The breakout is officially upon us. So that's going to do it for my Jacksonville Jaguars and Cincinnati Bengals game recap. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. I try to do this for every single week 4 matchup. You can also follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. Remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever. I will see you in the next video, and thank you so much for watching.